Hi, I'm Carla Bruni with the Chicago Bungalow Association. We're here with Matt Wolf, a fifth-generation owner of Henry Frerk Sons. For the third episode of our How To Home series, we'll be looking at common issues you may experience with your front steps, cheek walls, and lintels.
Let's do it.
All right, now tell me the story of what's happening with these stairs.
Yeah, again, very typical. We've got the concrete landing and concrete stairs at the front entry. Now, originally, the landing and the stairs were poured at one time, so they were all connected. What's happened here quite a while ago is they replaced the original stairs. I'd say the stairs that we're standing on now are probably from the 40s or the 50s. And what had happened originally was the stairs started to settle, and it formed a break at the landing. You can see the crack right here. Now, why did it break there? There's a wall that's below this landing supporting the front ledge. And so what's happened now is when they replaced the original stairs with these new ones, there was nothing to tie the stairs into the landing. And over time, again, these stairs have started to settle out. And that's why we see this cracking occurring again, and we see cracking occurring in the masonry, because as these stairs are settling, they're tilting that way, as you can see by the level.
And as they're tilting this way too, is it another issue where moisture is running into that masonry then?
Yeah, certainly. So all that rainwater that's coming off of the landing or landing on the stairs are, of course, being pulled by gravity towards that wall. And you can actually see quite a bit of deterioration on the inside of that concrete wall because so much water is pouring in there with every rain or every snow melt. And that also, think of all the frost that we get, the freeze-thaw cycles in this area. So if we have a lot of moisture building up in these walls and the concrete and the masonry, when it freezes, it expands and it exerts pressure and causes more cracking, more deterioration.
I also noticed that there were some gaps in the coping stones on top of the walls, so that would be the same issue there too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, water is always going to get in from the top and work its way down. So if you look at the coping stones and you see any holes or gaps in any of the mortar joints, you want to make sure to fill them with the appropriate mortar.
Okay. And what would the next step then be for this homeowner in terms of taking care of this cracking?
You have to assess the overall condition. I think there's a lot more cracking going on here than what can be fixed. I think, again, these stairs would be a candidate for replacement. Certainly because as these stairs are settling, they're also causing significant damage to the masonry walls.
So another thing I wanted to talk to you about today was lintels. Many of our members have issues with their lintels and wonder when they should actually replace them. So can you tell me a little bit about what the signs look like?
Yeah, certainly. So whenever you have a square opening like you see here, you need some sort of steel to carry the load above it, to span that opening. And so we call those lintels. And essentially all it is a piece of steel in the shape of an L that spans the load. And what's important to know is the lintel extends into the masonry to about here. Usually it's about 4 inches, sometimes 6 or 8 inches. And that load is then transferred to the sidewalls here. Now, because the steel bears on the masonry here, as the steel rusts, it can sometimes get thicker. And as it gets thicker, it pushes up on the masonry above it, and you can start to get what they call radiation cracks coming from the corners of the openings. And that's, again, a telltale sign that the lintel is starting to rust. Now, in this case, the cracking is very minor. Plus, I don't see any sagging in the center of the lintel. So to me, this lintel looks and appears to be functioning properly.
And what does it look like? What's the process look like of replacing one?
Yeah, usually it's relatively simple, especially for small openings like this. It's often just a matter of temporarily supporting the brickwork above with pins that run through the brickwork, and then removing the coursing directly above the steel. And then when you remove this brickwork above the steel, you can simply slip out the steel lintel and replace it with a new one.
Now, I also noticed that there's a bead of caulk that's running along the lintel here. Is that a good way to keep moisture out?
Yeah, it is, but that's also the problem. A lot of contractors think that caulking the joint between the steel and the brickwork keeps wind-driven rain from getting in, and it's true. But you have to think of masonry as like a sponge. It's always going to absorb water. And we have to think about how is that water going to get back out of the wall. And so as this wall is getting saturated, that water is being driven downward by gravity. And of course it rests on the top of this lintel. And if we caulk that joint, that water can't get back out. So what we're doing by caulking this joint is really only increasing the cycle of rusting.
Right, trapping it in.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go down to the basement now and take a look at the walls.
Okay.
Be sure to return for the final episode of our Diagnosing Historic Masonry series, where we're heading inside to assess foundation cracks and other common masonry issues that are typical in basements.